So today's speech is not going to be a long one, but it's probably going to be one of, or if not the most important speech that I can probably give you at this moment in your life. And I want to share a thought about something that's a recurring theme here with the boys, not just in this class and not just in this school, but in all the different schools that I see. And that is this idea that most of us at this age wait for somebody to tell us what to do. How many of us in this room have said the following: I didn't know what to do because the teacher didn't tell me? How many people in this room have said to themselves or have said to somebody else, I didn't know what needed to be done at home because my mother or my father didn't make it clear how it needed to be done? This happens all the time. And it's not just to us, it's to a lot of us that are in this age category. But I want to share a thought about why I think it's happening and what could be done differently to make sure that this doesn't become you. In order to understand why it's happening, I want to share a personal thought. When I first got married, after a few months, my wife and I started to ask ourselves, do you think we're ready for a child? And this was a tough question because at the time, I was having a hard time affording rent. I was having a hard time paying my bills. How on earth could I afford to have a child? And I kept saying to my wife, as much as I would love to have one, I think we got to push it off. I think we have to wait until, we do it the right way. We save up some money. We get a better job promotion. Let's wait. And it bothered me that I kept on doing this because I realized how selfish I was being. You know how hard it is for people to have children? Some people can't conceive. Some people, it takes them months to do it. And I selfishly was saying, I'm purposely not going to do it for financial reasons. Bothered me. So I said to myself, you know what? I'm done. I can't keep going through the motions of trying to figure things out. It's not happening. Let me just go for it. So we decided to try, and fortunately my wife comes over to me with the good news: we're pregnant. And all of a sudden my life changed. I started working harder. I started coming up with more creative thoughts. I started engaging in the world at a different capacity than I've ever done before. And I realized something. The pressure of knowing that a child was on the way forced me to do something that I didn't think I can do myself. This happens to all of us on a daily basis. How many of us in this room will get a notice from their teacher, boys, we have a test coming up next week. And then they say to themselves, I'll push it off to study. I don't need to study right now. Or we'll get a notification about a report that's due in 3 weeks from now. 3 weeks from now? I'm not going to do it now. Why would I waste my time? I could be doing so much more, and I'll push it off till I need to do it. And then what happens? The night before, we start studying, we start writing like we've never studied or we've never written before in our lives. We can tell you the question that you're about to ask us because that's how many times we've studied it. But I need to share something with you guys. This system is meant to fail. It's meant to crash. And I'll tell you why. On the right-hand side, we have your skill set. We'll call it level X. This is your area that controls everything that's about you. It can control how often you study. It controls your ability to get a basketball in a basket. It controls your ability to go over to a friend and say, hey buddy, let's make plans. This is your skill set, level X. On the other side we have level Y. Level Y is the expectations of reality. It's what is expected of you as a 7th grade boy, as a student at Barkai Yeshiva. What is being asked of you? And up until now, hopefully, Your skill set has always surpassed the expectations. For some of you, it might be that the expectations have caught up and you're starting to fall behind in some of your classes. You're starting to struggle when it comes to managing time outside of school. That's possible. And if it hasn't happened yet, it will. And let me share why. Up until now, not much has been expected of you. Study for this test, go to that friend on a Friday, right? You didn't start studying, or maybe you have, for the BJEs. You haven't started to study or worry about your high school applications. You haven't started to worry about getting into college, about taking a law exam, about managing 3 different finals and 2 different reports that are due all in the same week. Life has not expected you to do it yet because you're not old enough to handle it. But one day it will come. It's not a matter of if it'll happen. When is it going to happen? And the question is, will you be able to say to yourself, I'm ready for this moment? There's a man by the name of Phil Knight. Anybody ever heard of this name?
Nike.
Very good, Jojo. Founder of Nike. Let me tell you Phil Knight's story. Phil Knight started off as just an average guy. He was an accountant. Had no business background, had no idea about manufacturing or selling shoes at a high volume. He said to himself, I'm recognizing that my current skill set is not strong enough. I want to do something different with my life. So he enrolled in a business program at a university, and he decided to take an interest in business. But even at that point, he still was not done with himself. He still was not ready to say to himself that I'm ready. He said to himself, I'm going to China. I don't know what's out there, but I know that I'm not done working on myself. So he travels overseas, he packs his bags, he goes over to China, and he makes a fantastic relationship with a manufacturing company. At the time, you're talking about 1980s, very long time ago. I know that everyone kind of does this today, but at the time this wasn't being done before, to go overseas and to manufacture your product for a cheaper price. He comes across this company called Tiger Athletics, a company that manufactures running sneakers, but here's the kicker. They were manufacturing the same type quality as the highest level that was being offered in the United States for a discounted rate. It was so cheap. So a lightning bulb struck. I want to make a deal with these people. So he makes a cold call. He gets involved with the people he needs to get involved with. And all of a sudden, overnight, he becomes the sole distributor of Tiger Athletics in the United States. And the story goes on from there, where Nike was born. But all because he was willing to look at himself and say, there's something that I'm missing. There's something that is a part of my skill set that's not complete. I need to work on myself. And only then can I meet the demands of what reality will hit me with when the time is right. So I have a question for the boys in this class. Who in this room wants to be Phil Knight and say to themselves, I need to work on something that maybe reality hasn't expected me to, but I know it's coming, so let me get ahead of it? Who wants to be the kid that says to themselves, even though I don't need multiple days to study because the information is easy, but you know what? Someday I won't be able to study in just one day's notice, so let me work on it from now. Who's going to say to themselves, right now, life is peachy, so maybe I don't need to really network so hard. I don't need to try so hard to impress others. I don't need to work so hard at making meaningful relationships because I have all my friends at Barkai. What happens when you go to another school like Mag and David or Flatbush and the Barkai kids are not there and you never worked on yourself to make meaningful relations? Now what? So here's my ask of you boys. Now is at a time of your life where you have all the time in the world to work on these things. The demands of reality are not great. They're not where they're going to be in years from now. So who's going to take the time to say to themselves, I don't want to be average. I don't want to be the kid that just gets by because it's the easy thing to do. Who wants to be Phil Knight and who wants to be average? If your answer is Phil Knight, start working on some of these things from now. Because now's the time where you have that opportunity. And if you do it, you'll see it. Success will be that much easier for you in years to come. Shabbat Shalom.